19th hole. We are here at our final episode and reviewing of Full Swing. I'm crazy excited. This is the episode I think everyone is talking about. It's the episode that got Full Swing up for season 2. Everything has led to this. Since everything has led to this, let's bring in the crew that has been for the ride the entire time here. The complete distinguished panelist of experts in the Duffer field of golf, Barbara Bonds.
Hello. How's it going?
Doing great. We got Greg Galvin
What's going on?
back for the final ride. And the professor himself, just figuring out his stream just in time to get made into this one, Kendall Harrow. Cheers
Hey,
up.
Cheers.
Hello, Professor.
The professor.
How are you?
Right, so here we go. First thing I'm going to do for the Duffers out there, anybody who knows the Duffers rules, par or better, you got to take a shot. This is our final episode. This is the one we're doing it. I'm going to go ahead and cheers one up to everyone right now as we get ready to kick off this episode because it's going to be that good. So cheers up to the Duffers here. Thank you, Greg. Thank everybody for coming along for this ride, for this episode. Let's do it.
I'm drinking water.
Me too.
Yeah, right? Here we
Somebody
go,
has to keep it on pace.
gentlemen. This is exciting. Everything has led to this. Rory. Oh, my God. I have to tell you, I love Rory. I'll put it out there. I'll go right there. I'll put it on record. I love Rory. I love what he stands for. I love what he's doing for golf. Let's start just general. What did you think of the episode?
Hey, all I can say is it's like the luck of the Irish, but I'm not Irish, so. I enjoyed it. I've been a fan of Roy's for a long time.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. This one, I don't know, I guess kind of grabbed me a little less than most episodes, I'd say. Probably just because I know Rory. I know a lot about Rory, so I didn't feel like I was learning anything new. But it was still entertaining to watch.
All right, well, that's a good perspective because I almost feel like this has been a perfect 8-episode review because I feel like me and Greg have been on the opposing sides in most of these perspectives and thoughts. So it's brought a great contrast to what we've been talking about here in Full Swing. I thought this was crazy interesting. One, because you're going to hear in some of our talking points here, I don't think Rory should be in the position he's in. I don't think he should be in the position he's in. I know why he's in the position he is, but it made for a good episode because I did learn some stuff about Rory. So I see your point, Greg. That's awesome in the way you say you know so much about something. So you're like, this is all old news. But let me kick off the question, and not to steal Barbara's thunder here, because I'm really, really curious from your statement there. Do you think Rory should be a voice of the PGA Tour?
I'm going to chime in really quickly. I love you asking that question because we as fans, no matter what sport it is, we have a big investment. We have a really big investment in what's going on and all of that. And so for you to be like, is Rory the guy? I don't know. We are always like, armchair quarterbacks or whatnot. And we always have an opinion. So why shouldn't Rory be the guy is my question. But I'll let Greg chime in and Kendall and see what their thoughts are.
Yeah, I think we've seen the growth of Rory in the past few years. I know when golf became an Olympic sport, he declined to go to the Olympics the first time around. And he basically said that he didn't feel comfortable representing Northern Ireland, wearing the Northern Irish flag because of things going on in Northern Ireland, which obviously I have no clue about because I live in my little USA bubble. But someone asked a question about growing the game when he was refusing to go to the Olympics. And he said, I'm not here to grow the game. I'm here to win tournaments. And from that to where he is now, he's definitely taken a complete 180. And we've seen it in the past few years where everything he has said is, I want to grow the game. I want to do everything I can to grow the game. And so now for him to really be, the golden boy of the PGA Tour and, Jay Monahan's little lapdog sometimes, it's interesting to see his change of heart, kind of. And it's interesting to see just how far he's gone into like, no, I am the voice of the PGA Tour. I think he's won enough to deserve that title.
He hasn't won a major in 8 years.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, he hasn't won a major in 8 years. So is he being the voice the thing that's keeping him relevant?
Well, no, because he was still a world number one up until a couple weeks ago, and he's bouncing back and forth. It's Rory, JT, or Rory, Rahm, and Scotty Scheffler just kind of exchanging world number one every other week. So yeah, he hasn't won a major, and I know that's how we measure everyone, but he's still won enough to be world number one. And if you're world number one, then yeah, you're winning enough to be relevant.
I am a Rory fan. I would just like always have to bring the conversation so that it's provocative.
All right. Let me pull out your thread then here, Barbara, on that statement. Is Rory Tiger's mouthpiece?
Ooh, that's a great one. That could be very true because Rory is the front man and Tiger's in all those meetings that Rory's in, but Tiger's not the one speaking. Rory is definitely, the one speaking, and maybe Tiger's Cyrano de Bergerac and just giving him all the points to talk about. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think he's Tiger's mouthpiece.
So David,
I don't think Tiger
you
wants
bring
to
up
have
a good
anything
point.
to do with it. Go ahead, Kendall. Sorry.
So I must be delayed again. Words out of my mouth. I think that the PGA is using him, and because he does have a following, and people do, like Barbara loves him. She's like, I like Rory. He's a very likable guy. He's well spoken. Decent looking golfer. Golfs pretty well. He's on a bunch of events, right? So people want to root for him. So I think the PGA, whether it's Tiger or a collection of Tiger and Jay Monahan or whatever his name is, feeding it to him, and maybe he got like promised to do it. I have no idea. But yeah, I don't think he would have done it otherwise.
Well, we do know that Rory and Tiger are close, right? They're in business together. They've got Tomorrow Sports together, starting TGR Golf, the simulator golf league that they're doing in the off season together. So I don't think he's Tiger's mouthpiece. I do think that Tiger's in his ear a lot, and I think that a lot of Rory's thoughts are Tiger's thoughts, but I don't think Tiger's sticking his hand up his ass and moving his mouth like a puppet.
I love Greg. This is one of the best collabs ever.
All those, I said all those business ventures came out after he became the voice.
They did say that they've been in the works for a couple years, right? So timing is everything. But
here's, all fairness to Rory, there's no secret, and he said it from the beginning. And he's a Tiger fan, right? He's grown up watching Tiger. It's what got him into the game. Every commercial is a subset of him talking about Tiger, doing what Tiger did, trying to follow in his footsteps. So there's no love lost or secret there that Rory wants to do anything that Tiger's involved with, right? So like that marriage of business ventures off course was Rory's dream. I feel like what you're hearing though is what Tiger doesn't want to be in front of. He's been in the limelight enough in his life, and he's had enough bad press in his life right now. He doesn't want to put the PGA on his back. He's not going to be there that much longer. So I feel like, you're kind of like, it's not up his ass. I think it kind of is. Because you made the point stating, I'm here to win tournaments. And then when Ventures and Tiger and all this other stuff came into play, now he's playing politics. I think there's a lot being we're seeing and heard that is stuff that doesn't want to be. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Tiger pick up Rory in his jet on his way to the players' meeting? Like, there's a lot to be said, that we're not really seeing as we sit from our, Monday morning quarterback chairs here.
He also picked up JT and Ricky, though, so
Yeah,
it wasn't just Rory there.
Those are just two more flackies.
Well, I mean, you need those younger guys really picking up the torch and taking it. So as much as, yes, Rory was one way and he shifted, he has had growth, and maybe Tiger has had some that influence on him. And so that's important, right? To have growth, to start as someone who's young in the business and really want to just, win for yourself, and that's all you're interested in. And then, you pull the camera lens back, if you will, and you start looking and seeing what the legacy of golf is. What am I really here to do? And what is my effect on those coming after me as well? So I think there has been growth for Rory. And if Tiger has had something to do with it, I think that's really great for the game of golf.
You just said a really big key word here that I think will help us shift: legacy.
Yeah.
PGA, Live. We're at episode 8, so like it's out. There's two major teams here, or versions of golf happening. How many do you feel through the culmination of this whole full swing? Those that left for Live hung up legacy, or they're hopefully kind of the lawsuits we're hearing about they want both.
Yeah, I think they want both. I don't think they're going to get both. We'll see. Time will tell. But I don't know. I think whatever legacy they were building, those guys that went to Live, it cut off. I still think Phil Mickelson will be known as one of the greatest golfers of all time. Like, his legacy is pretty much cemented. But guys like Brooks Koepka, even DJ, I think whatever legacy they were building, it's just kind of like, it's done, and then they took their bag and then they went home.
All I keep hearing in my head is regrets. I've had a few, and them all singing that and like just holding their head in their hands.
Right.
You make a very strong point there.
Agree with
Sorry, go ahead, Kenny.
I'm sorry, I don't agree with Greg. I think it's split into two different parts. Guys like Dustin Brooks is kind of on the cusp. Like, he's won enough majors to where I think he's probably done enough. They've achieved what they wanted to achieve. Whether the PGA Tour wants to accept that and allow them into the Hall of Fame at some point, especially Dustin Johnson or Phil Mickelson, that's up to the PGA to decide, which is kind of sad because they should be, right, for how many times they've won. The fact that they chose to go somewhere else, that's their choice. Everyone has a choice. So that shouldn't negate what they already did. Now, as far as legacy, if you're talking about like what legacy they bring, like, they achieved what they needed to achieve on the tour to become inducted into the Hall of Fame. So I think their legacy was already done. Now, others like Joaquin Neiman and the other guys that left, they weren't around long enough to have any impact like that. So no, I mean, there is no legacy for them. But the other guys, I think it's two parts. You have the guys that have already won and proven it. They have really, what else do they have to prove? No one's going to be Tiger again. So they've already proved what they had to prove. If they want to leave, they can leave. It's their choice. And then the others that just went because they wanted to make money and they're struggling.
Okay, Kendall. So let's say, so Mita Pereira was a rookie and should have probably won the PGA Championship, right? So if he continued on PGA Tour, he probably would have built a legacy for himself. But as you pointed out, he wasn't around long enough to create a legacy. So you agree with me that winning live tournaments, no matter how many live tournaments he wins, he won't build a legacy for himself because no one cares.
I agree with Greg.
I agree with that. But we're talking about building the legacy on the PGA Tour, right? So you have to focus on the guys that have been there. So any of the guys that have been there long enough, like Phil Mickelson, I mean, if anything ruins Phil Mickelson, it'll be the way he speaks in interviews and his demeanor in all of his interviews since he's left, right? So Dustin Johnson, on the other hand, I mean, the guy should be in the Hall of Fame. That's it is what it is. But whether he gets there or not, it's going to be determined.
I don't disagree with you in that fact. I think there's going to be, despite who has left, I think there's a lot of end of career names who have left. Phil Mickelson, Poulter, that will end up in the Hall of Fame. I don't think that will get robbed from them. I think they may not go in as soon as they may have gone in before, but I think they will go in. I think it'll be a Pete Rose story. When Liv fails out and they determine if these guys can play on the tour again or not, I think that chapter will write itself downstream. But I think there are players there that you're right, they've already earned it. They've got the wins, they've got the jackets, they will make it into the Hall of Fame. However, the choice now between Liv and PGA, Cameron Smith, he's got no legacy. He's going to be a one-hit wonder. I don't care what happens here. And if they decide to rewrite it, I don't think he gets to come back to the PGA and dominate in any way, shape, or form. I don't think he's a skill set player to do it. Right? That's just my opinion. I think he unfortunately wrote his chapter for the money. He's gone. So playing for legacy, Greg, here's my question. And I almost want to put a wager here and put this out to the whole world. Do you think Poulter gets to be captain?
No, I absolutely don't think he gets to be captain. I think he played a dangerous game of chicken with the European Ryder Cup team, and they didn't budge, and he didn't like it, and he lost. I do think that the European Ryder Cup team kind of tiptoed around like, well, maybe there'll be ramifications, and the U.S. Ryder Cup team was like, no, if you leave, you're not playing on the Ryder Cup. You're no longer part of whatever we're doing here. They were very cut and dry. And the European Ryder Cup team was like, let's see what happens. And then after the fact, they kind of put the stipulations down. But he's even said in his episode, I don't know how it's going to affect the Ryder Cup. So if you don't know, then it's probably not going to work out in your favor. And honestly, I don't feel bad for him. Like, based on his record for the European Ryder Cup team, he deserves to be a captain. But he made his bed. Now he's got to sleep in it.
Love it. It's a love of a choice. Last piece on legacy that I'll pull here from this episode, and Barbara, I'll give it back to you. Just because I'm a Tiger fan, I've got to ask. The Tiger walk across the bridge, the final time at St. Andrews, how did that hit you? It hit none of you. Okay, so apparently I'm the only Tiger fan.
I thought we were frozen there for a second. I thought we were frozen.
It hit none of you.
It hit me hard. It hit me really hard because I had no. I mean, in my head, I'm not thinking that's his last time playing St. Andrews competitively, and we all know that Tiger's come out and said if he doesn't feel like he can win the tournament, he's not going to play in it. But the emotions that he was showing walking across the bridge, it's like he knew that was the last time he was there competitively, at least for the British Open, right? There might be smaller tournaments played there, but yeah, I think he knew it was the last time, and that's when it really hit me like, oh shit, like this is his last time there. And we've seen so many like icons of the game do that walk, and they always stop and they wave when they're halfway across the bridge, right? So the only solace I had was he kept motoring right across that bridge, like, wiping tears out of his eyes, but he didn't stop and wave. So that gave me a little bit of hope that he'll come back and compete there. But obviously, I mean, Tiger was my entire childhood, right? I watched him every weekend. He got me into golf as well. So I don't want to see him hang it up ever.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about Tiger. It's like you never want that to end, that legacy, if you will, that legend to walk off the golf course and be done. So yes, that walk across the bridge is iconic, and it's very telling. But I agree with Greg. I love that he didn't wave, because it's like, oh, wait, there's hope. Maybe this isn't the last time. Yeah.
But it also shows
there's a
me
question here.
Sorry, go ahead, Kendall.
Sorry. There's a question here when you say legacy then, right? Because legacy would be Nicklaus, right? Would be Tiger, would be I mean, you could go through a few of the greats. I mean, is Greg Norman a legacy? Let's ask that.
Greg Norman
right?
has a legacy.
The one
He has one. It's why he made. That's why Liv is even able to kick off, is because they found somebody with a legacy to go build that. You couldn't have built Liv Golf on Cameron Smith.
Right.
Like it's you found a
So, okay, great, but there's only a handful of them, right? So like when you talk about, like, I don't think Rory's a legacy. I don't think that Poulter's a legacy. I don't think that Mickelson's a legacy. Like,
no,
so
you're wrong there, Kendall. I'm going to have to interrupt. Those are names. Those are names that people are going to remember,
right?
Even through Tiger's thing. I never have seen Greg Norman play a round of golf, but I know who the hell Greg Norman is. That's a legacy. Like I've never seen Arnold Palmer play a round of golf. I know who the hell Arnold Palmer is. Jack Nicholson. I've seen clips. I've never seen a full round of these guys play, but that's because they've got legacy and name there. That's the only reason Liv was able to get off the ground, is they went and found someone ballsy enough to throw the middle finger up to the PGA, because he was throwing a middle finger up to the PGA when he was playing. I don't think you could have gotten any other player to do that.
Jack Nicholson is an actor.
All the guys you named, though, my point to this is all the guys you named, they're not Morikawa. They're not these guys. I don't see them having that. Yeah,
Nicholson plays golf.
He does, and he gets angry and hits people with his golf club, his windshield.
With Bill Murray.
But, yeah. Oh, was that Bill Murray?
He plays with Bill Murray.
He plays with Bill Murray.
Oh God.
Yeah. So, but Jack Nicklaus is.
That was the beginning shot.
It's Jack Nicklaus and Phil Mickelson. They had a baby, and it's Jack Nicholson.
There you go.
Clearly, we've been drinking. Well, and when I say we, they've been drinking.
The Duffers have had a few.
Let's just be clear. Yeah.
Nothing but water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, so with that being said, do you want to talk about the players only meeting? Like, was that controversial for you? Was that like, did you want to be a fly on the wall in that meeting? Like, how did you feel about the players only meeting? And I love actually the way they covered it. For
me, I thought it was interesting because I never knew of players only meetings. So I kind of went with this going, crap, did they just start this because of the Live thing? Like, what is this a common thing? Are there players only meetings all the time? Like, it was a very opening, like what is this? I've never heard of this, before. Like, who got in trouble? Why are what is going on here? Is there about to be a big PGA walkout? Like, that was a very, very interesting moment for me to be listening to that got me in my phone going, players only meeting. Like, is this a common booked event? I do tell me more.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to be a fly on the wall. I mean, there's a lot of big voices in that room, right? And I want to hear what they have to say for sure. It's definitely not a ongoing occurrence. It's that's the first time I've ever heard of one on the PGA Tour. The way it was covered, it was very much like this is a direct response to what Liv is doing. Even like when it happened, everyone was like, "Oh crap!" Like Tiger and Rory had to call all the PGA Tour players together to talk about this because the PGA Tour got punched in the mouth. Like we've already talked about that, and they had to respond, right? And Tiger and Rory wanted to make sure that that everyone was on a united front, or as David would say it, Tiger wanted to make sure everyone was on a united front, and he brought his puppet Rory along. But you know, yeah, I mean, it was a crazy thing to see because we had never seen it before, and I don't know if we'll ever see it again. It'll take something drastic like this again.
Yeah, it felt like an emergency meeting.
You think of any other sport, like I see it in hockey all the time. I'm a diehard hockey fan, and if things are going super south, they hold a players only meeting. Coaches aren't allowed in, and they have a heart to heart with the players. So it has to be a really bad situation to really get to that point. It's more common in other sports, but that's because it's a team sport as opposed to an individual. So for them to put a players meeting together had to be pretty drastic.
Yeah. And so that brings us to the stroke advantage. Do you agree?
So on the stroke advantage here, now we're talking about the FedEx Cup. So let's make sure we're clear on this one here.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a shift from players meeting. The notes on the stroke advantage. Do you agree? The FedEx Cup, Greg, you'll probably be able to correct me on this. 10 years? 10 years now?
I forget when they actually brought it along. I think it's been longer than 10 years. I think I was in high school, so it would have been, oh gosh, at least 12 years ago. I'm young.
Okay. So I feel like the FedEx Cup has changed its rules like every 2 years. Like something or some fashion, the way the FedEx Cup, the Super Bowl event of golf, has changed its structure every year because they complain. You know, like, oh, so and so got so many points, they don't even have to show up to 2 tournaments and can still come in and win the FedEx Cup. That's how Tiger won the first one. He was so far out in front in points. He showed up to like 1-2 tournaments and walked across the finish line, the FedEx Cup winner. Like, all right, great. You opened up a new Super Bowl. Of course I'm going to win this. I'm the number 1 player for the last, 13 years running. So they're like, hey, we got to find a way to do this. My secret squirrel just told me it was 16 years. So 2007 is when it started. So this FedEx Cup is going on for 16 years. This is the first time that, because of Full Swing, that I had paid attention to the new rules. And from my understanding, depending on how you finish, like in the point standings or whatever, and the ratings now, you now start these other tournaments with stroke advantages. And when I was watching this, I was like, what? To me, you can throw the FedEx Cup out the window. No, whoever wins this is pointless, right? Because you're starting no other tournament across the entire season. Do you walk in going, hey, I get to start 500 today? Like all of a sudden there's a handicap rule for the Super Bowl. What?
Yeah, I've always been kind of against it when they started that. Like you said, I mean, like I think it was the first year they did the FedEx Cup. Tiger skipped the first tournament of the playoffs because he was like, I'm so far ahead, I don't even need this. I'll see y'all at the second tournament. And then he went on and won it. But that was, pretty much they just shrunk the field every week. And then the last week was top 30 players. And it didn't even matter who won that tournament, but like they just got points for winning that tournament. And it was still the top point getter won the FedEx Cup, right? So then I think they had a year or 2 years where the winner of the Tour Championship didn't win the FedEx Cup. So they're like, well, we got to change this. And then they came up with the stroke system for the Tour Championship, the last tournament, where, this past year, Scotty Scheffler started at 10 under, and the second place guy started at 8 under, so on and so forth. I'm not a huge fan of it. Hearing Rory explain it in this episode kind of made me understand it a little bit more, where he was basically saying, it's a culmination of the entire season. So if you play well the entire season, it should account for something going into this, because we're playing for a season-long award. So I guess I get it on that aspect. I still kind of hate it, but I'm not like throw out the FedEx Cup, because obviously they played well enough to earn those strokes, right? They played.
I agree. I don't say throw it out, but I don't think the rules around it, especially from a Duffers perspective, right? I mean, and I would love to really see a real conversation around the FedEx like ruling skin like this. And maybe I'm not watching enough of the interviews going down, at the tournaments, but this episode gave me the newfound respect for Rory truly not giving up. You know what I mean? Like he was 6 strokes from the first tee box behind. The first tee went down 8 strokes and then turned around and fought back to win the tournament. Like, it wasn't the fact that you were playing against your own card. You were already down 8 strokes before anybody else had teed off. Like that to me was one of the most interesting things about this episode that had me really watching with intent of going, wow, like that right there is, to a couple of our episodes we've talked about, is a difference between somebody playing for money and somebody who's trying to win.
It doesn't hurt that he won 15 million. So
right, yeah, right. It's a $20 million purse, right? Is next year's. It's going to be a $20 million, 18 million for the FedEx Cup win. It now drives it to 2024. They're already talking about it, right? So the last piece of this episode was the new 12 elevated events, right? The player impact program, right? I don't know what that prize fund was, but the whole, Kupka hating, DeChambeau, like that was all player impact. I don't care what anyone says, that screams social media all day long. And it got to a point where somebody was like, oh, imagine if Tiger was a part of this or something like that. And he went and filmed one swing of him in his little sleeve after his accident and broke the internet and won the Impact Player Program, where all of a sudden, Kupka and Bryson are all of a sudden, we're good, we're cool now, we got put in our place, here comes the guy with one swing, to make it seem like he's coming back. That was the PGA's way of like, here's some extra money. We've got to write off some taxes. So we're going to create this little social media program over here. Perspective, Kendall, what's your thoughts?
I get the FedEx points. I mean, if they're crowned a champion based on how they perform throughout the year, I'm okay with the way they start that. And like you said, to Rory's point, like he won that tournament. He didn't win the player of the year or the FedEx Cup or whatever it was, but he won that tournament. So like Greg said, the payday was good. But yeah, I'm okay with the way they set that up. Because I understand it now. Like at first I was like, it makes zero sense. You should not have an advantage. But since it's for the whole year, yes, I agree with it. And to that point, Rory won because the person who accumulated all those points and started in the lead didn't have his best day and wasn't playing his best going into it. So anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not against the FedEx because it's like, it's a culmination of your year. And so you get an advantage, depending on the culmination. I've worked in reality shows for many years. You get advantages when you win things, right? And so
I guess the question is this then considered like, Kansas City getting a first round bye in football? I mean,
Probably.
is that how we're trying to, like, we're giving somebody 10 strokes over the field?
I guess that's a good comparison.
Home field advantage.
I think it's
Look at that.
home field advantage. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another good comparison. Like it's just a culmination of what you earned over the course of the year.
Mhm.
To backtrack a little bit, Kendall, Rory did win the FedEx Cup by winning that tournament. But yeah,
We did.
it's a culmination of the entire year. So
Yeah.
first round bye, home field advantage, whatever you want to call it. You get a little bit of you get a little strokes before that last tournament.
Changing the subject a little bit and not so much, Rory. All I have to say is fuck you, Phil. So let's talk about fuck you, Phil.
You know how it's like kind of one of those moments where you could tell this is where any other day, press not being around or something. I feel like that was the whole Tampax thing with Tiger. Like that really wasn't supposed to be caught. And then for them all of a sudden to go, oh crap, you think they're going to put this in? And somebody across the room, he goes, oh hell yeah, they're putting it in. You just said it in front of everybody.
Okay, I have a different perspective as someone who's been in this world for 30-year career. He was brilliant about doing it. He knew that he was in the middle of a production and that he was going to say what he was going to say because he knew that that would make it in, or he knew that he wanted it to be put in. So I don't think it was an accident. I think he was smart enough to know that this is going to be part of the production because it was provocative.
I think it was a great like ending of the episode to give you where we're going to go next. Full Swing 2. Like, you talk about a cliffhanger. I mean, that leaves so many, like questions. You think Phil didn't watch Full Swing? Come on, you know what I mean. So this is one of those. I would have loved to see that moment. Phil watching episode 8 for the first time. Boom. Like that would have been an awesome moment to see or see what his retort would have
Episode
been.
9 is going to be Phil Mickelson.
Did you know? I don't know if you guys know this or not. Did you know that Rory didn't sign up to do the Netflix until very late in the season? And when he did finally agree to it, because everybody else had agreed, everybody who was filmed had agreed, but Rory didn't agree to very late. I think he didn't agree until Waste Management to be part of the show. And he said stipulations were they weren't going to his house, they weren't filming with his family, that if they wanted to film with him playing golf and doing golf things, then he was in. But other than that, did you guys know that?
No, I did not know that. But it makes how this last episode played so well.
Mm-hmm. So he was well aware about the "fuck you, Phil" moment.
Right. Yeah. He's just, getting stretched out by his chiropractor.
Again, good for him.
Going on. Yeah. And just, he dropped it like it was a throwaway line. He knew very much so that it was not a throwaway line. Like you've said before, if it bleeds, it leads. And that was going to lead the entire time right after he said it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Genius.
I mean, as a producer, and I'm watching and listening on a monitor, and he says that, I'm like, that's gold. That's it. Like, you mark that, you circle that in your notes. You know that is going to be used.
Yeah, we've got our trailer. We've got everything. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my God, that's gold. You wished for that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then wrapping this, because as I knew this was going to be a long episode here, but to wrap this, the moment he's sitting there after winning, and he sits down and he goes, he's always the first. He's always the first one. And then you go, Tiger. He's the first one to text you, before that first putt even drops.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I felt like watching Rory say that, looking at that, everything before he says that, before he even mentions Tiger's name, I could have swore I thought that was his wife, something, kid. Like, that was the look he had on his face looking at his phone. So then to turn around and say he's always the first, and you're like, wait, who, what? And he's like, Tiger. I felt like all the showing him chipping into a washing machine, doing commercials side by side with Tiger. Like, it was almost like he had all of his dreams come true in that moment, in that cliffhanger of a finale of a season here, for Full Swing. Do you guys agree?
Oh my God, yes. And I think it was interesting because if you look at both of them, they had kind of parallel upbringings with golf. Like, they were both on TV, and they were known as young golfers who were really good golfers. And all I think Rory ever wanted to be was Tiger. And so to have Tiger acknowledge him in that way, hello. Imagine if Tiger acknowledged you, David. Like that.
It's gonna happen.
Okay. I mean, that's the dream, right? That's
the what not to do episode.
Right. So, but what do you guys think? Greg, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's everyone's dream, right? I mean, that's his idol, and his idol is the first one to text him every time he wins a tournament. Like, yeah, that look on his face is warranted for that kind of thing. I mean, that's what dreams are made of. I just think it's really cool, the friendships that Tiger's made pretty recently on tour, like his friendship with JT, his friendship with Rory. When he was the champ of all champs, when he was winning every week, it was pretty well known he didn't have many friends on tour. I think it's cool that he's being more personable now. He's kind of come back and like just been a little lighter with guys, and like has really grown relationships. I think that's cool for Tiger, and it's obviously really cool for the guys that grew up watching him. Honestly, Rory winning the FedEx Cup last year, that's the best case scenario for the PGA Tour, right? He's their mouthpiece. He's the golden boy, and he wins the season-long event. You can't write a better script if you're the PGA Tour.
Completely agree.
I mean, he took a bunch of the words out of my mouth right there, Greg. I'll just stick with the Tiger side of this whole thing that you brought up, which is he's a much different player now. He is a lot lighter. He has a lot more friends. If the tampon thing wasn't enough to show that, then people just aren't paying attention.
Very true. So, gentlemen, this brings us to the end of this episode and to the end of the series. Thank you so much. I mean, this Full Swing really has done something amazing to golf, and it brought us together with the Pinehurst Six. Greg, the representative. Yes, Greg, and thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. Here's the thing. This is the last episode of this, but if you haven't watched it, make sure you watch Full Swing. Then come back and watch these episodes. Give us your comments. Tell us what you think. Do you agree or do you disagree with us? Tell us what you think. And you never know, if enough people comment, we'll do another episode. We'll go live and we'll hear from you guys, the fans. And so make sure you do that. Subscribe to this channel, Duffers Review. We review golf courses, and now we review Full Swing. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, gentlemen. This was really great. Full Swing is amazing for golf, for the game of golf, and for storytelling. And thank you so much. We'll see you the next time here at the 19th hole. Take care. Bye.